And what we like to do is update you on what's going on with the Laramie City Council. It's kind of our monthly mayoral series, but this time around, as I've mentioned, we're going to be switching back and forth between Mayor Shumway and Vice Mayor Pat Gabriel, and the Vice Mayor is with me. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, David. Great to be here. And to start things off, I have a trivia question for you.
Oh boy.
Who was the last person to win the KOWB Golf Calcutta?
That'd be you. And he's got our KOWB Rocky shirt.
You can see that on the ditto cam, as Rush would say, right?
Absolutely. The old
very proud of that.
There you go. That's cool.
That was always a great competition because it kept you involved in the 4 majors.
Yeah, it did.
That was a lot of fun.
I love golf. I miss that show dearly. I have my own show now. It's in the mornings. I don't know if I'm awake half the time, but I'm here. Let's see. Had a great visit with Mayor Shumway last month on a lot of different things that are kind of on your radar. It sounds like, because of what happened with the change in the election, obviously November, December were kind of a slow time. But it sounds like you guys have been really busy here in the first couple of months, Pat.
No doubt about it. Brian Harrington, Aaron O'Doherty, Jessica Stalder, Paul Weaver are the 4 new council members, in addition to the 5 that were on. Mm-hmm. So we have a 9-member city council and 4 brand new members to bring up to speed. They're doing a very good job. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of years.
A little bit different role for you right now? Are you adjusting to that, being vice mayor now?
A little bit. Some other responsibilities, but not that much different from what I was doing as a counselor.
Right.
I think, if Mayor Shumway can't make something, then I can maybe fill in for him. But so on. It's been pretty good.
So it's been a busy couple of months for you guys, starting things off, and I know you guys are starting to get into the budget a little bit. We'll get to that, but one thing has been some of this alcohol ad hoc committee and some of the discussions on. Is this just are we updating on ordinances, regulations? What's the conversation like? And it sounds like some of this kind of got prompted by officials at UW for you guys to talk about.
Yes, exactly. The ad hoc committee has already met, and we're going to have a work session next Tuesday about the recommendations, talking about perhaps increasing fines for the use of a fake ID, more alcohol compliance checks, increased use of ID scanners perhaps, requirements for businesses to participate in tavern meetings to discuss alcohol issues, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, obviously, I think some of that what are we hearing from establishments with this? What's the feedback that you're getting from local bar owners, restaurant owners on this?
Since I was not a member of that committee, I'm not sure, but I think we're going to receive a lot of comment at our work session next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But early on, we heard from people saying they needed more participation from the people that had the licenses, for instance, to bring up to speed on what's going on. We heard that from people that have the alcohol licenses, more of a buy-in to the process.
Okay, all right. So key work session coming up next week, and so what would be the steps after that, Pat, then? After you guys hear from, what are some things that we're looking at here that the public needs to be aware of?
I think, David, what's going to happen is we'll hear comments, and then we'll put together some updates to our ordinance, and then of course it has to go through 3 readings. Mm-hmm. But I'm not quite sure the exact timeline, but once we digest all of the input from that work session, I think we've got some, and the committee has adopted all of these recommendations that I've talked about. And I think that another one, David, was the fact that we need clarification on which employees of a liquor license holder needs to go through the training, the tips training for people that serve alcohol.
Yeah.
So that needs to be clarified. And I heard a story from City Council in Casper on your airways today. They were talking about the same issue.
Yeah. So we're not just alone in this down here in Laramie. There are other places across the state that are looking at that, and obviously our news team up in Casper following that end of it here. So glad that we could bring that up. There's no doubt about that. Now, let me ask you this, Pat. The legislative session just got done. How closely were you and the mayor and the rest of the council kind of watching that just to see from a budgetary standpoint, how that impacts what you guys get in terms of funding from the state.
Very closely indeed, and of course the big issue was House Bill 293, dealing with the dorms on campus.
Right.
And that came down, and we feel very good about the way it turned out. The university is going to have a task force. They're going to be in charge of it. There's going to be 3 state legislators on that committee, along with the mayor and his designee. 3 members from the Board of Trustees will be on it. So the university will handle the task force and all of the planning, but we certainly wanted a seat at the table, and we were able to get that.
Yeah, and I know Mayor Shumway talked about that and how important that would be. You know, obviously wanted more, but at least you got 1 seat at the table.
And I think that the big thing, David, was 15th Street. We all wanted to make sure that 15th Street was secure, would not be shut down. However, you can anticipate some kind of shutdown during construction. Indeed.
I mean, that I can understand. I can. And you know, what's interesting is now you're getting some people who are critical of the state for actually approving the funding for the dormitory renovation. You know, people are like, oh, they're only 50 years old. Yeah. Well, buildings wear down over 50 years, people. You know, because and that's been kind of a critical piece of the state legislature, is people talking about, you know, but you're never going to please everybody. But it's going to move ahead. They're gonna go, you know, forward with the renovations. This is gonna be sounds like a timeline-wise, it's gonna get dragged out a little bit, because this is not an easy situation.
$300 million project. Can you imagine?
This is by far and away the largest we've ever seen over on campus. But I can understand it. I mean, heck, it's been 20 years since I've been in school, and the dorms weren't even that great then. And I can, you know, and I know they've gone through some refurbishments, so to speak, but I can understand why UW, I understand, you know, Pat, I honestly do. I understand critics, because I'm one of those who sits there and I go, all right, really, we got to spend $300 million on dormitories? But then at the same time, I also look at it and go, there really hasn't been a major housing overhaul on campus in a while.
Talked with the mayor last night at our meeting, and Mayor Shumway told me that he, along with our city manager, Janine Jordan, met with a number of the trustees, along with UW President Lori Nichols, about this issue and other issues. Wells at KOWB Golf Course, for instance. You know, and all the issues involved with parking on campus. And so we've got a really good relationship with the university. We want to communicate and work together as much as we can, but there's a lot of infrastructure issues looking at the dorm situation that we need to come to some kind of grips with, and so we're going to work together. There's no adversarial situation at all, and I think that you know, over time it's going to be a very interesting process. Yeah,
to say the least. Yeah, I'm curious as to see, once construction starts, how that impacts some things. Obviously Grand Avenue, 15th, and some other things are going to be impacted greatly with that. Why, let me ask you this, Pat. Why do you think the university keeps wanting to try and close down 15th Street? Is it just to close campus to make it more pedestrian friendly? Is that their biggest argument?
That's what I think everybody has heard. Kind of like shutting down the area around Prexy's pasture and make it, you know, a closed campus like that. How nice that was. That particular area, I think, was just ideal, but not 15th Street. And everybody has talked about it, and Mayor Shumway told me last night that everybody at UW feels that 15th Street needs to remain open. So that is not a question. They said for sure 15th Street will remain a thoroughfare. Who knows what's going to happen during construction, but that will remain an open street.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear that. I'm still surprised that legislators keep talking about wanting to shut it down, but they must be getting that from somebody. Let's just put it that way. And you, every once in a while, I hear, you know, the quote unquote, is there a disconnect between the west side of campus and the east side of campus? And I never felt that when I was a student, but maybe I was out in La La Land, folks. I don't know. We're visiting with Vice-Mayor Pat Gabriel here. It's a Wednesday edition. Now, the budget obviously impacts what you guys have from a standpoint of what you can do with the funding that you've got. So you're watching it very closely. did we see any reduction? I mean, do you know right now, Pat, where we stand at, you know, as you guys start to talk about your budgetary phase and just, I mean, we've seen government have to shrink at the local and county levels here.
Well, we're in okay shape. I wanted to bring to your attention and the listeners in Radio Land today, I went to the administration department last night to pick up some facts and figures about population and what we're spending. For instance, the population of the city of Laramie has increased almost 7%, 6.9% from fiscal year 10 to FY19. So a 7% increase. During that same period,
wow,
the city workforce decreased by 5.5%. So we're lean and mean for sure at the city.
Absolutely.
Public safety positions within the city lessened by 2.36%. Non-public safety positions decreased by over 11.5% during that same period. So we're doing a lot more with less. And
by the way, welcome to the party with that.
yes, I guess that's everybody, isn't it? Except for the federal government, who prints money and they get away with spending as much as they want.
You wish you could print some money here in Laramie, don't we, at times, ladies and gentlemen, to fix our roads and sewers and all kinds of other things. There's no doubt about that. So, as you get into this budget process, what are some big things that we're looking at here on the budget this year, Pat? Because you guys are just starting that, and that's going to be big here, you know, come late as this month goes into April and trying to finalize things by probably May, early June at the latest.
With the passage of the 6% sales tax, special purpose tax, we need to prioritize that money. You know, we've got in the low 20 million that we can spend on infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, and so that will be one of the big things that we need to do is sit down. We don't want to bond too many of the projects because then that costs more money. A lot of that stuff will have to be put together by saving the sales tax as it comes in, but we do have money up front that we need to do something with. For instance, how about 9th Street north of Harney, right along the Bonnie Park, one of the worst streets. That is my big priority, David, to get that thing fixed as soon as possible.
There's that one. South 15th out here by the viaduct over the interstate is brutal in places, especially, you know, they repaved it past the dip, but now the dips on each side, it's like, I mean, you can lose your car in a couple of those potholes from time to time, ladies and gentlemen. And I know there's other streets out there, there's no doubt about that. I think Boswell has been impacted with a lot more traffic on the south end of town since we opened kind of the thoroughfare through. That's another one. Now, since the Harney Street viaduct opened, you've noticed, I've noticed, a lot of people noticed the traffic pattern has changed. And so are there things to address Harney Street? You know, because obviously the concrete portion was put in between 3rd and 9th, but now moving forward, do you foresee more attention being paid there?
Off the top right now, David, I'm not sure. Nothing's been brought to my attention anyway. I think that's in pretty good shape. The viaduct, you know, 23 point something million.
Yeah.
You know, like a 20-year planning process finally getting done in the summertime has been a really positive impact to the city. And so, you know, it's just a constant situation where we need to look as a city council, sewer, water, streets, and trying to maintain what we've got and improve as many streets as we possibly can, because as a council person, I think that's the most comments and complaints you receive. You know, potholes, and just upgrading and making sure the streets are in best shape they can be.
Yeah, that's what that specific purpose tax was for. The passage is to try and help out because we don't have a plant here. So we'll see how that is moving forward. Any other big items that our listeners, folks in the community need to be paying attention to that you guys are talking about right now in City Council?
Well, I would think that the situation with the specific purpose tax coming up and setting priorities will be something to watch.
Well, I'm sure people on the west side of town are really interested to see, because they, you know, for a long time that's been the conversation for probably 30, 40 years about paving streets over there. And And I know there were open meetings, public forums that were set up to discuss what type of streets people want. I mean, do you want the full street with curb and gutter and sidewalks? Do you just want, you know, just basically a paved lane? You know, and so that's a large part of it.
Yeah, definitely. We've got to set some priorities, and hopefully we can upgrade those streets in West Laramie and just the entire infrastructure of the city of Laramie. It's a big endeavor, and I think that the council is doing one heck of a job. I also want to really give a lot of credit, David, to the administration at the city, because they've been doing a lot, and they've lost some people, and we haven't rehired some, and they just do one outstanding job. Anytime you need something from the city as a council person, they will get it for you. And so I'm very pleased with the way Janine Jordan is running the city, and all of her associates, very pleased.
New ideas? Have you seen kind of some new ideas, some different conversations with the 4 new council members? I know Paul Weaver has been and served on the city council before, but obviously you got 3 others that are first timers. Has it been a little bit of a different conversation? Have you noticed that compared to maybe last year at this time?
I think Brian, Aaron, and Jessica are trying to get their feet wet a little bit before they dive in, you know, too deep. Kind of following the process here, but as we get into more discussions on specific purpose tax and projects, I'm sure they're going to weigh in quite heavily there.
Absolutely, and well, it's one of those situations where we always will keep you up to date as best as possible. Anything else before I let you go this morning, real quick?
Thanks for all of your play-by-play over the years.
Oh,
you know, people have talked to me about your drive and your dedication to covering sports, not only at the high school but at the university level. And I know it's been many years, and I appreciate all the stuff that you do.
Thank you.
You never take any kind of break because you have Legion baseball coming up.
I do. Well, this is my slow time now. I'm done with basketball. This is my slow time, and it's still busy. Somebody asked me. Everybody keeps asking me, when do you get a break? I gotta force myself to take a break, Pat. I'll be honest with you. I really do. But
I hear you there.
I enjoy it. It. I'm forcing myself to take a break. I really do need a break. I tell you, last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it just felt like one big long day for 4 days.
And back and forth to Cheyenne.
Yeah, I made the smart decision. Drove back here Friday, did some work stuff for about 45 minutes an hour, drove home, got clothes, went back over. Did not want to get trapped here Saturday morning or have to make that drive Saturday morning. It's one of the smartest decisions I've made in a long time. I don't make a lot of smart decisions when hosting this show, but that was one of the smartest decisions I made in a long time. So I was trying to beat the weather, and it was crappy going back over. I came back at literally, it's like 5 o'clock, clear. I mean, there were a few light clouds in the air, roads were dry, it was beautiful. I went back over at like 7:30, 7:45. Oh, Lord have mercy. From the top, from the summit to, gosh, darn near close to Auto Road. It was bad. And because it came in so quickly, they didn't have the plows out just yet. And I saw a couple plow trucks heading that direction. While I was driving towards Cheyenne, I was like, wow. But there was a stretch where I think I was trailing a semi, but there's no way, because the guy was just driving down the middle of the road, because you couldn't see the lanes because they hadn't been plowed and there hadn't been enough traffic to actually make delineations. So it was basically like one lane down the middle of the two, so you couldn't pass. And then finally, I think it was a little after Buford, I was able to pass him, but I wasn't going. I mean, there were times where I was like, I'm not risking this. I was down to 45, 50 miles an hour, and I think they were advising 65. I was like, there's no way. You cannot see, especially behind some of those truckers. They kick up all that light snow. Oh,
well, I heard you this morning. Slow down.
I've talked with a couple. I know a couple highway patrolmen, and that's been the biggest thing on roads, Pat, is people driving too fast for the conditions. That's what's led to, unfortunately, an increase in highway fatalities this year already. So, well, thank you so much for coming in. I'll look forward to visiting with you again in May, but we'll have Mayor Shumway on next month, and we'll catch up. I'll pick his brain about a couple other things here as we go.
Good to be with you. Thanks, David.